I'd bet money that you haven't played this little game called Rising Thunder. Developed by Radiant Entertainment, it was the company's first foray into fighting games, but they weren't waddling in blind. Behind the project were Tom and Tony Cannon, the founders of EVO, and Seth Killian, former Capcom employee and actual fighting game character. Rising Thunder was an innovative little thing. Played with no motion inputs, the game was PC only and put out for little to no profit. Special move buttons were a radical change back in 2015, and are even taboo in some corners of the FGC today. Combine that with the fact that not much of the community was on PC at the time, and Rising Thunder had a lot of room to grow. This little up-and-comer had a bright future. In March of 2016, Radiant was acquired by Riot Games. In theory, a fantastic thing. The Radiant team would be able to do what they were clearly passionate about with a bigger budget and the weight of one of the biggest hands in esports behind them. In practice, this is the move that killed Rising Thunder. Being online only, the complete shutdown of Radiant servers sent the community into a panic. Rising Thunder had only been out for a year, barely that, and in a matter of weeks, it would be gone. But Radiant reached out and helped the community get the game in a stable state that didn't require online play. With no further development, though, Rising Thunder is a piece of fighting game history that will eventually fade into the background. Now, why did I bring this up? Because Rising Thunder is what would inevitably become 2XKO. 2XKO has become this myth. From its early days when it was called Project L, this game has taken nearly 10 years to finally come out. In this time, Riot has, so slowly drip-fed us information. This sort of development time is unheard of for a fighting game, and you can tell. General community sentiment has soured because people just want the game already. I'd call the outcry against the game not entirely fair, but not without reason. Fighting game fans, myself included, tend to adopt games as part of a routine. We want to make the game part of our community, our tournaments, our content, but we're being shown something we can't have. It can feel like Riot is dangling a carrot in front of our face. But now, the game is out. Or rather, this beta is rolling into the full release. Everything about this game has felt like it was made for me. My first fighting game was Blazblue Cross Tag Battle, and as I've grown as a fighting game player, my biggest complaint with it has been the depth. With only 2 buttons, auto-running, and the inability to combo from special moves to super moves, the game becomes mashing for a hit before doing your canned combo. The tag mechanics are a little too simple for my liking. 3 assists done with the direction input and the partner button, the ability to swap out for a canned follow-up, a combo breaker, and the big flashy combo extender. Would you call that a combo extender? I don't know. Now, this is perfectly serviceable, and I'll forever be BB Tag's biggest defender, but the game is lacking in an exciting neutral experience that devolves the game into a combo simulator rather than the artful dance between 2 combatants. When we first saw what 2XKO was doing, a lot of people immediately pointed at BB Tag. They're more similar to each other than they are to, say, Marvel vs. Capcom. So 2XKO seems to be a revised take on my first fighting game. More buttons, more tag actions, and an actual second round, because what the hell was that, Arxis? This seems to have the makings of a perfect game, one made for my hands, or at least one that'll be comfortable with some adjusting. So that's what we'll talk about. I'm aiming to get this video out as close to release as possible, and who knows if I'll do that. I'm writing this part 3 weeks in advance. Tag fighters are defined by one thing. Bullshit! Anime fighters are often known for crazy movement, explosive combos, and wacky character designs. And frankly, the only thing differentiating a tag fighter from an anime fighter is the amount of characters you choose on the select screen. Movement as a whole is snappy, even if your character of choice jumps like a sack of... well, I guess I can't say that on YouTube. Movement speed isn't standard across the cast. Your big bodies move slower, and characters like Vi and Echo move crazy fast. I wish more defensively minded characters like Jinx walked faster so she could zone a bit easier, but complaining about such minute things makes me feel like I'm being a brat. Oh, you spent 10 years making this? Cool, but my Manic Pixie Dream Girl doesn't walk backwards fast enough. Remake it! Dashes are easy to chain, helped along by a dash macro button, allowing you to press a direction and just go to town. You're not stuck committing to a dash. You can cancel it into a crouch block, an attack, a parry, a jump in any direction. Basically everything but a standing block. It's very Marvel in this way. You never feel like you're not doing anything, because realistically you should always be doing something, and the game enables such antics. 2XKO is a game without universal air options. Characters like Ahri, Jinx, and Vi have air dashes, dive kicks, and double jumps respectively, while folks like Darius, Alawi, and Blitzcrank can only alter their aerial momentum with special attacks. This means developers can balance a character around can they move around in the air or not. Now, this isn't uncommon for tag fighters. Most characters in MVC don't have an air dash, and on the opposite side, very few in BB Tag miss out on one. In a game like Strive, a character's inability to air dash can feel like a weakness. Potemkin can't air dash, so if you like air dashing, that's a con. Don't play Pot. In 2XKO, it's the opposite. Ahri can air dash. If you like air dashing, that's a plus. Play Ahri. The limitation of such a tool invites preference rather than revulsion. Returning now to universal mechanics, I'm all for the way jumps are designed. While they may not seem notable on the surface, there's enough here that I see the value in bringing it up beyond padding the video's runtime. The jump itself is nothing special. As with any fighting game, you or your opponent will inevitably find yourself jumping in and inevitably get smacked out of the air at one point or another. 2XKO gives you access to an air block, standard in most tag games, and air throws to beat them. But what 2XKO does that interests me the most is super jumps. Done by pressing down before a jump, what makes this different from the same thing in BB Tag or similar games is the height. While it doesn't go very high, it goes a lot further horizontally, with a different animation. The jump animation is typically easier to hit, with more spread out limbs and a bigger hitbox, making it a question of moving shorter distance safely or longer distance with more risk. It's a general rule that characters move faster forward than they do backwards. On the whole, this makes the game less defensive. Now, there is one more way to talk about movement around the screen, but before we can talk about that, we have to make a pit stop. So on we go to... If you're familiar with my channel, you know the kind of games I like. Fast, explosive games that take time to learn, that become masterful works of art when you figure them out. Now, I think every fighting game is a work of art. This is an inherently beautiful genre, where even games that would be seen as failures in most other genres gain a community. But my defense of my own taste demands that I say that there's just something different with games like Xrd, Central Fiction, even Strive and BB Tag. These are games where people will often play one character and stick to them, be it because they're complicated or just for the love of it. This makes a game all the harder when you have a roster like Central Fiction, and you have to figure out what the hell Arakune does when you can count the number of times you fought him on one hand. And your hands lack fingers. The point is that the games I'd soonest compare to 2XKO come with steep learning curves, high execution, and often a general sense of, what the hell is going on? This game plays with traditional Gatlings. I'm not calling them Magic Series, I know my roots. Light, medium, heavy. The smallest of hits will get you at least decent damage, so not taking hits becomes priority number one. The main goal of every hit is to land a launcher, and start an air combo. Character dependent, obviously. Characters like Vi want to stay grounded, and Ahri doesn't need a launcher to get you in the air, but it's a good place to start, and clearly the most logical next step in your strings at a beginning level. Both a selling point to some and a turn-off to others is the special move buttons. Rather than using motion inputs like most other games in the genre, 2XKO opts for two buttons pressed in any direction to make the game more accessible to any and all controllers, with a particular emphasis on keyboard play. This was my biggest concern with the game. Everything about the gameplay felt right from day one, but as someone who loves motion inputs for the tactile feel they provide and even the risk that can come with what move is on what input, special move buttons could have been a make it or break it for me. I'm happy to say I don't much mind them. You can very clearly tell the game was designed without motion inputs in mind, so it never feels like a compromise. Most all tag actions are done with this handy button right here. Holding the bottom face button, assuming you're on pad, will swap you out for your assist character nearly immediately. Merely pressing it with either no direction or backwards will give you an assist attack, and you're free to perform a handshake tag for as long as the assist is on screen. Tagging is the aforementioned way to get around the screen that I had to hold off on. While situational and particularly cruel to a certain extent, tagging out a character that's closer to or further from your opponent is a good way to get into a preferred position without the hassle of actually moving around. You're basically an employer in that regard. You're getting someone else to do your job for you. Tagging, and especially the flexibility of it all, adds a whole layer to mix-ups that BB Tag only flirted with in passing. If their assist character ends up behind you, then everything is a left-right mix-up, and that's just by default. Defense is equally as strong, though tempered so as not to make turtling up a consistently good game plan. Each defensive option has explicit weaknesses and penalties, but only for failing, which to me is the mark of a good fighting game. The most basic of these is push block. Push block is an anime and tag fighter's staple, largely popularized by MVC and Guilty Gear. Here, it's largely what you can expect, pushing the opponent away to give you an opening. With one small change I haven't seen done anywhere else. It uses your assist character. Not only does this mean it puts your assist on cooldown, but it also makes getting red hurt. If they knew you were going to push block and hit you anyway, now they're hitting both of your characters. Happy birthday, jackass. Retreating guard is a fun little mechanic. Pressing light and heavy while blocking will have your character perform an invincible dash backwards. This doesn't cost meter, or your assist, or even your red light. Completely free. But it can be hit by low attacks. It even freezes the screen for a moment, giving your opponent the chance to recognize the opportunity in front of them. And even if it works, you're putting yourself closer to the corner by using it. Never a good thing. Just like push block, burst is another legacy defense tool that now uses your assist. Again, I know my roots. I'm not calling them breakers, that's KI territory. If you've played an ArcSys game, you know the deal. Get out a combo free card, as fantastic as it is in any other game. Parry should be familiar to all fighting game fans because of... yeah, that, you know the clip by now. Parry costs 1 bar meter to perform, and you either parry high or low. But if you actually parry an attack, you get that bar back, which just stings worse if you can never land parries like me. The timing is tight, appropriately. You have to parry in advance rather than on reaction. Or at least I do. Now's a good time to remind you that I'm a scrub, and you'd probably beat my ass. Unfortunately, I do have some problems with defense in the game. Rather uniquely for 2D fighters, pressing either of the special buttons when you're not down will have you perform a get-up attack. It's a high-risk, high-reward attack that gets him off of you but is awfully minus on block. I don't see the value in these. Sure, if your opponent forgets about it, it can get you out of the occasional bind, but you're as vulnerable to forgetting about them as your opponent is. Or at least I am. I'd much rather roll out of pressure, or go all in with a high risk, high reward, and fucking hit him with that shit, yeah baby, level 3 on Wake Up! A specific change they made from the second Alpha Lab was that blocking a burst will now give you a full wall bounce combo as the opponent is sent flying back. I think this is a great change, and an awesome spectacle. But it's not exactly easy to block. Anything short of a light jab or a landing jump in will still get hit by the burst. I don't know if I'm too Guilty Gear brained or what, but Xrd and Strife have much easier, and better in my opinion, get out of combo free tools that amp up the risk to match the reward. Even with these problems, they are in no way deal breakers. Picky little nitpicks. I think defense is still solid, just not where I'd like it to be. Shifting burst to be more akin to Guilty Gear and letting me continue to not care about get-up attacks is what I'd enjoy personally, but again, not an actual problem. Something this game does that I adore is that when you're down a character, you're not alone. You're still able to reanimate your partner's corpse for all tag actions, although you obviously can't tag out. Tag fighters can often make it feel like you're punished for losing. A lot of games will either give you a comeback mechanic, like X Factor or Resonance Blaze, or will tell you to get fucked and deal with it. But a lot of characters become demonstrably weaker without an assist to hide behind or extended combos. When your partner is down, you gain access to a new assist, done with down and tag. This is a pseudo-super that costs 1 bar, but is often screen-filling and massively damaging. Additionally, 2xKO does give you a comeback mechanic in Fury. Fury activates off of a burst, and is basically a toned-down X Factor. Your gray life restores, you deal more damage, so on, so on. You don't actually need to hit the burst to get it. Pop it neutral and you're as good as gold. Good as red? The main mechanic, aside from all the tag stuff, of 2xKO is the fuse system. If you're at all familiar with another tag fighter, Capcom vs SNK 2, this will obviously bring to mind the groove system. Fuses alter how your team will play, pretty significantly. Double Down is the first one, the most basic, and my fuse of choice. It allows you to perform another super input to tag in your assist, who will do their own super corresponding to the input. This is a standard feature of most tag fighters, often called DHC or Delayed Hyper Combo. Freestyle lets you tag twice in one go. This is for mix-ups or extended combos, namely making the aforementioned left-right mix-ups scarier and making Echo into the god of nightmares. 2x assist lets your partner perform a second assist when they're on screen. This is great for certain teams, not very useful for some. My team is Jinx Darius, and I don't get much use out of this. Notably, it's a little weird. Obviously, pressing the assist button again will tag you into controlling your partner, so you can't do the same assist twice. You have to do the other one. Sidekick and Juggernaut are the most unique. While the other fuses may alter how you play, these tend to alter the game itself. Sidekick is interesting. It basically makes the game play like your assist is always down, giving you buffs to make it worth choosing. For starters, they give you 5 bars as opposed to 3, and instant access to the powerful down assist. Holding the assist button will have your assist run forward until you release the button, wherein they will perform the attack. Given that your opponent now has to deal with a guy running at them and you're already primed to whiff punish them, you can kinda see why this is strong on its own. Additionally, Sidekick lets you do DHCs, obviously without tagging out. Do I need to explain why this is good? If it's more damage, read the room. Juggernaut gives you the same 5 bars and damage buff as Sidekick, as well as the ability to perform a snapback attack that swaps in the opponent's partner character if it hits, done with the assist button. That is all Juggernaut gives you. This is meant for players who aren't used to playing tag fighters, a chance to play as one guy so you can learn them while giving you just enough bear buffs to justify its own existence. The fuse system mainly exists to give as many different experiences as possible. If the game starts to feel stale but you don't want to change characters, try a different fuse. One team using the same characters as the second may play wholly differently if they're using different fuses, for example. But a fighting game is only as good as the sum of its characters. The fuses can only carry as much water as the team provides. This is a game with shockingly limited character variety. Even if we disregard only having 9 characters on launch, I'd say only 4 of the characters play like anything aside from a brawler who wants to hit you a bunch until you die. I mean, I guess that's the point of any fighting game character, but you get what I mean. Jinx, Ahri, Echo, and Blitzcrank are beyond being variations of the same idea. This leaves 5 out of 9 characters to do the same thing in different ways. Even then, Ahri, Echo, and Blitzcrank still want to be in that range. It's simply what they want to do in that range that makes them stick out. In turn, what you do at such a close range determines how a game feels. This is a game with a very strong grab focus due to dodge rolling having been added, making it more RPS focused than Oki or setup focused, although those focuses do still exist. Even within this niche, no 2 characters are doing the exact same thing. Well, with one exception. That right there, that's neutral in 2x KO. Button, button, check if you hit or got blocked, proceed. It's how they get in that mainly defines the game. Rather, it's what they do at this distance. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that Jinx is maybe the best designed zoner in any fighting game I've ever played. A lot of zoners can feel weird when they need to combo, or boring for both parties when all they do is throw out projectiles at full screen. Jinx thrives on having a big wall to hide behind to set up her little guys, then whack them around so they can whack you. Something cycle of abuse. But despite all of her specials being projectiles, she's in no way powerless up close. Her combo game is the most fun in the game in my opinion, and she has her own personal meter to manage with Zap. She pays for her range with her up-close defense. Save for the universal things like parry, push block, and whatever, Jinx has no get out of disadvantage free card, not even her level 3 super. Meanwhile, Darius is out here rocking an invincible special, massive buttons, and nice knockdowns for pressure. Combine that with Jinx, and very suddenly, Darius is a setup character, with a bleed-out mechanic. This is the magic of 2XKO's tag system, and magic I've only seen replicated twice. BB Tag, barely, and Street Fighter Cross Tekken of all things. The ability to quickly say, actually, Echo functionally has a command grab. Every team then becomes a thought experiment. How do you get X to play off of Y, and what fuse lets you do it the best? And I think that's most everything about the core gameplay. I don't plan to walk you through every character, mainly because I'm a bit late to the party and others already have videos about that, but I'll say it's because I want you to experience that certain magic that is playing a roster for the first time. So now is the time to talk about everything around the gameplay. Let's start with To say this game feels like a visual work of art would be a moot point. You've been staring at this footage for 7 pages of script now, and we as a consumer base have been drip-fed this version of the game for about 4 years, so we all know how good it looks. The colors pop, the lighting is nice, and the effects make everything clear in an instant. Tag fighters can have a problem with visual clarity. When there's so much happening, it's easy to get hit by something you didn't know was there. 2XKO does this, but very intentionally. In some games it can feel like an accident, but 2XKO very clearly wanted this result. You will get overwhelmed, but you'll know why, and you'll know that it was part of the design. The models look great too. I've had no real exposure to this cast beyond Arcane, but those I recognize all look up to par and animate nicely. More importantly is the performance, so nice I can't help but be amazed. This thing will run smoothly on 11-year-old laptops for Sobek's sake. The optimization team deserves praise. The online is smooth too. Games like MVC2 struggled with rollback netcode due to speed, but this is barely a factor here. Granted, the player base is limited due to the closed beta, but it's the biggest number of players this game has had, and it's as smooth as silk. I haven't noticed lag once, save for intro cinematics. I'd expect nothing less from the Cannon brothers, who pioneered the netcode we use today as a near-genre standard. Granted, this is still a beta. During the opening tutorial, I did face some screen tear. There will be some issues, depending on hardware, internet, and even just sheer luck. On my end, though, it's running like a dream. A lot of people have a problem with the very concept of lobbies like this. They lambasted Strive, they lambasted 2XKO, the sky is blue. I understand the issue, I really do, but the only reason I mind is because the thought of even digitally walking up to a cabinet to play with a complete stranger makes my social anxiety act up. I do agree with Riot's reasoning, though. This feeling of playing face-to-face with another person, it's just lost as arcades fall into the distance and the facelessness of digital avatars take hold. I personally never got to experience the heyday of arcades, so I do see the value in this system. With a player base this high, it shouldn't be a problem to find a match, especially when they open up ranked mode lobbies. Your mileage may vary, though I've had no problems. Nothing Arc System Works hasn't helped me get used to, at least. The UI in actual fights is clean and readable. I can't point to anything being too small or so big it's distracting. Nothing much to note here, actually. And the menu. It's serviceable, it works, it functions. It looks nice. I'll say that having online and offline modes together is an interesting choice. It's not necessarily wrong, I'm just not used to it. There's no shop or ranked mode just yet, so we can expect this menu to expand just a bit. You know, I saw a lot of complaints about the tutorials. Some justified, others strange. The lack of character combos? Yes, I think that's an issue. Character combos and tutorials are vital for some people to learn a character, especially more complicated ones. I don't typically need character combos or breakdowns to learn one, but will dive in if I'm wanting more from the game, or to find something that maybe I'd never think to do. But the general sentiment seems to be that the tutorials are too hard. Yes, there are some cases where the directions given don't look clear. Look at this, I can't tell what it wants me to do for shit. But I personally get the feeling this sentiment comes from League of Legends players who are just now tipping their toes into fighting games. I don't think these are too hard once you get into the swing of things. They're easy enough to get you into the game at a playable, passable level. That's all you could ask them to do, right? Look, I've faced some bad tutorials in fighting games. These are pretty good, all things considered. And you know what? Maybe I imagined this sentiment in the community. Who knows? All I know is that I got 50 minutes of footage for a segment that's probably barely 5. "2XKO follows among many other games in recent memory, being that it's using character mastery to unlock a bunch of fun knickknacks. They slot you in with some character-specific tasks. Hit someone with bullets as Jinx, travel back in time as Echo, grab a bitch as Blitzcrank. I actually don't have Blitzcrank yet, I'm just guessing on that last one. This is on top of several generic quests. Land a super, use a burst, tech a throw, induce a rage quit, things you'll achieve naturally with time. These are doled out daily and weekly, and aren't mandatory. They're designed so you can ignore them, but will inevitably clear a few. So if you can ignore them, why do them aside from the pleasure of clearing a checklist? Well, completing quests gets you tokens. I'm writing this with a cat on my lap and don't want to get up to check the actual name, so we're calling them tokens. Tokens are used to unlock a few things: characters, character colors, profile items such as titles or frames, and customization items for your lobby avatar. These tie into character mastery, where reaching higher levels gives you access to certain items themed around that character, like customization items to dress your character as them, or stickers, even a color at the end of the final rank. Other colors have to be earned separately, though. Now, I'm not about to say that these are easy to obtain. It's a bit of a grind. As of the time of writing this, I haven't seen anyone online rock anything behind the default options, maybe a single avatar item or color. 2XKO, when it's out beyond this beta, is going to be a free-to-play game. But due to the corporate hellscape that is capitalism, nothing free can last without making some profit. So when this game launches fully, I imagine we're going to have the option to skip a lot of the aforementioned progression rewards via coughing up some dough. Riot makes a lot of money through cosmetics, not straight-up character DLC like other companies in the fighting game scene. Alpha Lab 2 had players having access to every character color and every costume for every character. This isn't the case for this beta, though they plan to launch a shop when the full launch comes, as I said when I was talking about the menu. Riot has also spoken about battle passes. I've got a lot of thoughts about fighting games becoming closer and closer to the increasing monetization that has plagued the shooter genre for years now, but this is a special case. 2XKO is going to be the free-to-play fighter. Previously, the bastions of the free-to-play FGC have been Killer Instinct 2013 and Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising, though I'm probably missing a few. As we talked about at the beginning of this video, Radiant Entertainment developed Rising Thunder to be completely free-to-play. But such a thing was done from the kindness of Radiant's heart, and Riot has no such heart. It seems that the 2XKO battle passes are set to be short and sweet. The first one seems to have 4 skins for Yasuo, Illaoi, Braum, and the first character who will come out with the proper launch, Teemo, as well as colors for some others. The problem with such a small pass for a fighting game is that not everyone plays those characters. I personally got no interest in any of them at the moment, and Teemo isn't even out yet. He's barely an idea. It's like going to a party, but the only snacks they have are fit to someone else's tastes. You don't hate it, and they're still snacks, but they're not something you'd eat on your own time. The snacks are this Braum skin. Colors may be enough to sell a few people, but if Jinx and Darius don't have anything up for grabs, why would I buy it aside to support the game? Unless something catches my eye, I just let it fall to the side, you know? This is a problem that will only balloon as the roster expands. League of Legends has over 150 characters, and that would be unprecedented for a fighting game, let alone one that needs post-launch support in the form of skins and colors. And that goes beyond the hassle that would be balancing such a thing. While I've got next to no experience with MOBAs like League of Legends, I can tell you that fighting games can be a nightmare to balance. And while I've got faith in this team, I really do, I can't see 60 plus characters being a net positive for the game, especially when you have to buy everyone added post-launch. Now, I don't think 2XKO will get to that point, but frankly, who's to say? An interesting thought experiment, at least. Speaking of possible points that 2XKO may get to, I've got my concerns. See, right now this game is in an extremely accessible state. We're trudging through the grounds of unoptimized teams and pretty decent setups. Yes, I said extremely accessible even though it's a beta, shut up. But I think eventually there's the possibility that this game becomes like Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And to many, you won't see the problem with that. But that's a dark pit that I personally don't want to crawl into. MVC2 is an all-time classic, yes. But it's also an inaccessible, suffocating mess at anything other than moderate to high levels. And given how this game's lobby system work, I think there's a high chance that when a meta becomes optimized, new players will get crushed under the weight of more experienced competition. I'm sure ranked lobbies will make this easier to stomach, if not clear out the issue like it's a squatter facing the morally just consequences of their own actions. But Rising Thunder was already a pretty suffocating game, and will forever be now that we're 10 years down the pipeline. But 2XKO has a whole robust tag system that, while fantastic, can lead to early players dropping the game if they get hit by the mix-up of pain and unknowable terror. Another thing that I worry about is the game's free-to-play nature. While free-to-play is nice, and especially is a rarely cornered niche in the fighting game scene, future content inevitably becomes vast. Take Guilty Gear Strive. While not being free-to-play, trying to play that game right now, you'll face the barrel of half the roster needing to be purchased. Personally speaking, 17 characters being inaccessible doesn't make me want to go out and buy them, it makes me feel like I'm paying even more for a game I already own. With 2XKO, the problem is different, but similar. I suspect many people will get this game because they lacked the budget for other games in the market. This is exactly the kind of thing free-to-play is great for, but if they boot up the game and are handed 2 character unlocks for a roster of 50, I can't imagine that would be encouraging. Granted, 2XKO lets you use any character for free in training mode, true try before you buy, but then you got the problem of only 2 unlocks and potentially tens of characters you like, and then you gotta cough up a bit of dough. My personal solution would be to offer a paid version. Once the roster gets to a certain point, put out every character with their base colors available for like $40. A season pass, basically. It's not a foolproof solution, but it's something that would get me on board if I was in such a place. You've noticed by now that my worry is mainly based on early player experience. I think these early players are vital to fighting games. This genre needs a constant flow of people, lest your game fall into the Discord fighter pits. I've said it once, and I'll say it again. The best thing a fighting game can do is tempt you into curiosity. And this is a game perfect for that, with so much to explore and learn. But only if you still got the will to play after the most mind-boggling loss online that you've ever seen. "2XKO is everything I wish Blazblue Cross-Tag Battle could have been. Even just making the game more methodical was enough to elevate the experience into something with just a bit more thought behind it. But saying that BB Tag is the same as 2XKO is a disservice to both games, let alone the 10 years of work that everyone put into this one. Both games hold a great value to me. They take the base of tag fighters that Capcom set up and take it into an even crazier direction than normal. The difference is that 2XKO had a decade of development, and years of hindsight to refine the experience into something that has an evergreen future. If they just stick to this and don't try to shake up the game with new mechanics, wild changes, whatever else they can think of, this is an all-time great. Hell, it's probably going to go down as one regardless. Frankly, I don't think it's very possible for this game to fail. Riot can keep it afloat with prize pools and constant exposure to esports. Even with hard tag fighter competition like Marvel Tokon or Invincible Versus coming in 2026, I've got a gut feeling that 2XKO will still stand long after they end, be their deaths respectable or blazes of mediocrity. What I can say for sure, 2XKO is worth the wait. Now put Werwick in the game and make him play like Sabretooth. Riot, please!